IMDb's top 250 rated films is a staple list for casual moviegoers and film enthusiasts alike. It's the first list that people consult when looking for the best films of all time, and is almost certainly the most popular and widely viewed list of movies on the internet. But what if I told you that IMDb's list is all a lie? Well, it's partially a lie. Let me explain. This all began when I started to compare IMDb's top 250 list with Letterboxd's top 250 list, and seeing how much overlap there was, and which films were featured on both lists. If you aren't familiar with Letterboxd, it's a popular website and app that allows people to rate and log movies. So as I was looking at these film ratings, I started to notice something strange. For example, Redbeard by Akira Kurosawa has an 8.3 rating on IMDb. An 8.3 rating should mean that it's actually in the top 100 rated films on IMDb, right at number 96, between Reservoir Dogs and Lawrence of Arabia. But Redbeard isn't listed on IMDb's top 250. I did a little more investigating and found that 39 movies on Letterboxd's top 250 list have high enough ratings on IMDb to be on the IMDb top 250, but they aren't actually featured on the list. These snubbed movies are films like Late Spring by Ozu, and Scenes from a Marriage from Ingmar Bergman. In fact, 3 of the top 25 highest rated films on Letterboxd are missing from IMDb's list, even though they have a high enough rating on IMDb. So what's the deal? Why are they missing from the IMDb list? It turns out that there are a couple of factors. Firstly, apparently the IMDb top 250 list isn't created by taking the highest rated films on the website and putting them into a list. Unlike Letterboxd, which counts every user's rating, IMDb only counts the ratings of regularly voting users. The rationale for only counting the votes of regular voters is so that people can't as easily review bomb movies on the top 250. Now, this actually only has very minimal impact on a film's IMDb ratings. Most of the time the rating is the same for both, and when it is different, it's almost always only a difference of about 1/10 of a point. However, the regularly voting users aren't what's keeping the aforementioned films off of the top 250 list. It turns out the reason why these films aren't on the IMDb top 250 is that they don't meet the view requirement threshold for the top 250 list, which is 25,000 ratings. These highly rated and acclaimed films just don't have enough reviews. This vote threshold isn't a huge secret. It's right there in the fine print at the bottom of the top 250 page. But I definitely don't think that many people know that there's a threshold. I certainly didn't know about it. I know there has to be some sort of review rating threshold, but 25,000 ratings is too large of a threshold and causes some exceptional films to be excluded. For reference, Letterboxd threshold is 5,000 reviews. It seems wild to me that Redbeard, a film by motherfucking Akira Kurosawa, isn't on the IMDb top 250 list because it has 20,000 ratings, not 25,000. The IMDb top 250 list is used as a resource by a ton of people to find out about great movies. So it's just kind of a bummer that some really amazing movies are left out of the IMDb top 250 because of this fairly high view threshold. Obviously, my opinion is that IMDb should lower the view threshold for the top 250 list. This would inject new films into the top 250, which would in turn cause more people to watch those films and rate them. If they stay in the top 250, great. If not, no worries, but at least they had a fair shot. If you want to see a list of all the films that have high enough ratings to make the IMDb top 250 list, but just didn't meet the 25,000 rating threshold, I've created a Letterboxd list of those films, which I'll link in the description. Now, I fell down this ratings rabbit hole because I wanted to compare the difference between the Letterboxd top 250 and the IMDb top 250 lists. And I did find some other interesting facts when comparing them. If you aren't familiar with Letterboxd, the Letterboxd user base is more of the cinephile crowd, while the IMDb users are more general, mainstream moviegoers. I calculated the most divisive film from each list, which had interesting results. To calculate divisive, I looked at which film on the top 250 of one list had the lowest ranking on the other website. And the 2 films with the largest rating disparity were Green Book and Moonlight. Green Book is on the IMDb top 250, with an 8.2, but only a 3.7, aka 7.4, on Letterboxd, and therefore not even close to the top 250 rated for Letterboxd. Moonlight, however, has a 4.2, aka 8.4, on Letterboxd, and is in the top 250, while it only has a 7.4 on IMDb, which is out of the range for the IMDb top 250. It makes sense that those 2 films are the most controversial, as those 2 films are emblematic of the differences for the user bases of the 2 platforms. Also, it's pretty funny that Mahershala Ali is in both of these films. Another couple of interesting facts from looking at each list's top 250. IMDb only has 2 films in its top 250 that were directed by women: City of God and The Matrix. Letterboxd does a little better, but not by much, as there are still only 8 films directed by women in their top 250. Jeanne Dielman, Workmeister Harmonies, The Ascent, Aftersun, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Past Lives, Cleo from 5 to 7, and the only one on both lists, City of God. On IMDb's top 250, the first foreign film appears at slot 22, Seventh Samurai, whereas 12 of the top 20 films on Letterboxd are foreign. On a related note, all but one of the 39 films that I found on IMDb with high ratings but not enough votes were foreign language films. There are probably more of these films that are missing from the top 250 that have high enough scores to qualify, but don't have the 25,000 rating requirement, as I only found the 39 aforementioned films by cross-referencing with a Letterboxd list. If you find one of these films on IMDb that has an 8.2 rating or higher with fewer than 25,000 votes, let me know and I can add it to the Letterboxd list of missing films from the IMDb top 250. Also, a final note that I pulled this data a little over a month ago, so it's not the most up to date. But it was such a pain to do all the calculations that I didn't want to have to redo it. Especially because Letterboxd actually tweaked their weighted averages formula just a couple of weeks ago, while I was finishing writing this script, which caused a fair amount of shuffling to their top 250. Thanks for watching. I know I say this every time, but I still am quite a small channel. If you subscribe, it really does help me out. But also, thank you for 20,000 subscribers. Keep your eyes peeled for my next video, which is about Schindler's List. See you next time.